Hey there. So if you're an SLP and it's the beginning of the school year, you're probably being asked to go to professional development that you feel is not super relevant to you as an SLP. So I wanted to share my tip for how to handle this when you are asked to do PD that you think is irrelevant. And it's actually not what you think, and some people might not like it. So instead of saying, how can I avoid having to go to professional development that doesn't seem relevant to me as an SLP, the question that you can ask yourself instead is, how can I figure out how to make this relevant to me as an SLP? I have been coaching SLPs for the past 7 to 8 years. And before that, I was an SLP in the school systems. And my area of specialization is language and executive functioning. And during that entire time, whether I was directly in the schools collaborating with other SLPs or in my work mentoring SLPs all over the United States, I always get asked the question, Karen, how do I figure out how to make my therapy relevant to what's going on in the curriculum? How can I help my administrator, my other team members understand the value that I can provide? Well, the thing is, if you want to be included as a team member and you want to be seen as somebody who is a team player, who is top of mind, who can be useful, it's really hard to do that if you don't understand what's going on in the building and in the curriculum. And there are many things that you might be asked to do that don't seem like they are on the surface relevant to your job. But many times, especially with language and executive functioning, which can globally impact kids everywhere, which are embedded in all areas of the curriculum and the school day, and really the entire day of, beyond school as well, you can figure out how to make it relevant. And I'll throw out a couple examples that I've noticed in my experiences. So one example is that recently, I've been talking to a lot of math curriculum experts. There is a ton of vocabulary embedded into math curriculums, math worksheets, math tests. A lot of those temporal and spatial concepts are key to just building our students' vocabulary, as well as building executive functioning. There's a ton of executive functioning work built into some of the problem solving in math curriculums. There's a lot of things built in that help kids to generate problem solving and self-talk. So talk to the math teachers, pay attention to the math curriculum. Now, obviously things like reading and language arts, those things are a little bit more obvious how they are related. But a lot of times when I was an SLP in the schools, I found that my students would sometimes have a hard time applying what I was teaching in therapy to the writing curriculum. And the only way to really figure out how to bridge that gap was to pay attention when there was some kind of big curriculum initiative, when there was some kind of technology that we were implementing in the district, because that was really top of mind for the teachers. And if I had something that I wanted them to do to accommodate my students in the classroom, a lot of times those other things on the teachers' minds, those other initiatives that were taking their time and attention were impacting how willing they were to implement whatever I was suggesting. So what I had to do was figure out a way to make it easy for them, figure out a way to tie it into the things that they were already doing. And when they saw me as a person that was helpful and useful for the things that they cared about, that really changed how they saw me. And over time, people would come to me with questions about language. Like, I remember I had a 4th grade teacher who had a student who was having a hard time with spelling, and it was related to morphology. It was very language based. And because I was attending those meetings and a part of those conversations, she thought, maybe I'll go ask Karen about this. She'll probably know what I can do. And so that is how I started to position myself as a person who could be of assistance, a person who could be a leader on the team, and how I started to get included on those things. It's really hard to be top of mind if you're always isolated in a silo. And yes, of course, you need to invest your time and get support in things that are specific to SLP related topics. But if you want to be a member of that team, you need to be a member of that team. Sometimes being helpful and supporting a teacher or an administrator in something that they're struggling with is a way to help bridge that gap and build that relationship so that you can have rapport for when you want to ask for something. So if you feel that thought creeping into your head, thinking this PD isn't relevant to me, I invite you to shift that and see if there's a way you can make it relevant to you, because I am guessing that there is something that you could find in there that could help you to be seen as a leader, where you can be helpful, where you can tie in something related to language and executive functioning. I guarantee if it has to do with curriculum, there is something in there that is relevant to you. So thank you so much for listening to my thoughts on this topic. It's one that I am very passionate about. To learn more about topics like this, definitely check out the De Facto Leaders podcast, where I talk about all kinds of things related to education reform. Just search for De Facto Leaders wherever you listen to your podcasts, or go to defactoleaders.com.